Hi, everyone, and welcome back for another episode of Malice in the Mitten. I am your host, Tracy Preston, along with my bestie, Christine Mulligan. Hey, Christine.
Hey, Trace. Hey, everybody. All right, what are we getting into? Because we finished our series, so we're on to something new and exciting.
We are onto something new and exciting, and it's actually very interesting. So today's story was researched and written by Rebecca Hiers. So thank you, Rebecca. So let's get into it. This is Season 7, Episode 19, The Michigan Hex Murder, the Death of Etta Fairchild. Spiritualism is said to have its beginnings in Hydeville, New York, in late 1848, living in a home reputed to be haunted by a murdered peddler. Two sisters, Maggie and Katie Fox, managed to convince their family and neighbors that they were communicating with the spirits of the dead through a series of rappings upon the walls as they asked the spirit questions. Now, word spread of the teens' abilities to communicate with the dead, and they soon moved in with their older sister, Leah, to Rochester, New York. Leah decided they should make money from their abilities and begin to manage their appearances. Calling themselves mediums, the girls would hold public seances, calling to and speaking with the dead. In 1849, the girls performed in front of a paying crowd of 400. That's pretty big at the time. Newspapers picked up on the story, and the girls were catapulted to fame. As their fame grew, others began to tour with their own brand of spiritualism, and it began to take many forms. The girls would later admit that they were faking, and it started as a joke that got way out of hand, and then recant that admission. But with the end of the Civil War, spiritualism gained popularity. Many families had lost members to the war in states far away, places they could never visit, buried in places they could never see. The thought of their loved one dying alone on a battlefield, in a prisoner of war camp or camp hospital was just too much. So they sought solace in spiritualism and mediums to contact their dearly departed. It brought them peace to hear that their loved one was at rest, no matter how violent the death. Mary Todd Lincoln was said to have communicated with her son Willie after he died, and later her husband. She often held seances at the White House. Her husband, President Lincoln, was said to sometimes join her. Spiritualism took many forms and caught on more in some areas than others. New York State was the main home of spiritualism, and the second largest concentration of spiritualists was here in Battle Creek, Michigan, then Vicksburg, Michigan. People would travel from far away to partake in spiritualism rituals. Camps sprang up near Vicksburg, where on some weekends as many as 2,500 people would come by horse, train, and wagon, and from around the world to witness the medium's magic. That area of Michigan took their spiritualism seriously. One of the forms of spiritualism that took hold in the area was that of New Thought. The New Thought followers were mainly known for their belief that the power of thought can change your life and the lives of those around you, for good or for evil. That you have the ability to manifest your destiny by thoughts. Think good thoughts, good things will happen to you. Think negative things, and negative things will happen to you. But not only can you alter your life with your thoughts, but others can alter your life with their thoughts. In essence, if someone speaks positively around you, it will help with positive things in your life. But if someone talks negatively around you, it is the same as putting a hex on your life. One couple that fully believed the New Thought teachings, described in papers as mysterious religious cult, were Eugene and Pearl Burgess. They lived in Kalamazoo, roughly 24 minutes south of Vicksburg in 1929, with their two children, 17-year-old Eugenie and 27-year-old Burnett. They lived in
Kalamazoo!
I was wondering if you were going to pipe in on that.
Yeah, but you just kept going, so there was kind of a little pause, and then I wanted to put in Kalamazoo!
kzoo! Love it.
Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
All right. All right. They lived a quiet life in their modest home at 439 West Ransom, now a vacant lot. Checker Cab was a large employer in the city, and Eugene supported his family working as a frame worker at their plant. Born in Homer, New York, Eugene moved to Kalamazoo when he was about 12 years old. Pearl was his second wife after the death of his first wife, Alice. The two married on November 14th, 1900. They took up housekeeping on Sherwood Avenue. Eugene was known as a kind and gentle man who never did anything more vicious than bait a fishhook. Now that's a quote, according to newspaper accounts. His wife was also known as a quiet person. They were a well-known and well-respected couple. Eugene and his brother Albert were members of the local fraternal lodge and performed popular song and dance routines for the members and community. Etta and Madison Fairchild were neighbors of the Burgess family, and the two couples were friends. Madison was a proprietor of a secondhand store on Portage Street. Married on July 3rd, 1887, the couple had no children, and after Madison died in 1904, Etta never remarried. She continued to live in her home at 1041 Sherwood after the death of her husband, and the two families visited often, sometimes daily. Etta was a devoutly religious woman, so devout she would only allow church hymns to be played on the organ in her home. She believed in faith healing and followed the teachings of Mrs. Irene Loveland, a prominent Christian scientist. When they first met, the Burgess family did also. Christian scientists believe, in part, that sickness and sin are mental errors, rather than physical or moral realities. This was at odds with the teachings of the New Thought movement, which Pearl and Eugene had begun to follow. Described as an affable, pleasant, easy to get along with, quiet woman who also, like many of us here, loved tales of the macabre. She was fond of telling ghost stories and, after her husband's death, adopted 8 cats. You know what they say about those crazy cat ladies. She believed the cats had human qualities. The love of ghost stories, coupled with her discussion of her religion and the humanizing of her cats, caused the Burgess family to move to avoid contact with Etta. Their new home was at 439 West Rawson. Etta herself would eventually move into the Merril house at 479 North Lovell, a home for elderly, widowed women. She arrived there on January 1st, 1927. She was well loved by her housing companions, and none ever thought she was anything but what she presented as. She would reach out to the Burgess family, attempting to maintain contact, but was continually rebuffed until 1928. One day, while both women were out and about in town, the old friends turned acquaintances ran into one another. They had a friendly conversation, and Pearl invited Etta over to visit. Etta was overjoyed to be reunited with her old friend, and the sometimes lonely old woman told the other residents of the home how excited and happy the invitation made her and how it filled her heart with joy. Maybe it was because she didn't have children of her own, but a friendship started to grow between 75-year-old Etta and Eugene. At first, the Burgess parents didn't seem too bothered that Eugene soon became ill with minor maladies. Then Eugene began to have trouble walking, becoming dizzy, and falling down. He suffered from headaches, pains in his arms, and had trouble breathing. His vision would come and go. The elder Burgess knew it was because of witchcraft being practiced by Etta. They knew she had placed a hex on them with her ghost stories, promotion of her religion, and such. And they knew if it continued, their entire family would die. On Thursday, July 18th, 1929, the Burgess family invited Etta for an early dinner. Burnett was at work and Eugenie was visiting friends. Eugenie returned a short time later and was sent to the neighbors. Her parents had a plan, and they didn't want her near when they carried it out. Dinner time came. Etta was seated at the table, awaiting the food to be placed upon it. While Pearl was in the kitchen finishing up, Eugene walked up behind her and smashed her on the head with a hammer and a lead pipe, up to 6 times. Etta slumped over her plate, dead. Burnett, just returning from work, was pressed into service. Grabbing a rug from another room, he assisted his father with wrapping and tying the body with electrical cord. They attached cement blocks to the cord holding the carpet in place. The two then carried her out to the backyard and dropped her body down the cistern. Now, that's the name for an old-timey hole that used to store water. In fact, we actually have a cistern in our house. Our house was built in 1890.
You know, it's crazy. Before you get any further, I'm listening to you and I'm thinking this is a long time ago and the whole witchery or witchcraft and stuff. But we don't, humans don't know what we don't know. So, of course, we go to the fantastical. And you're just like making my brain think about how this woman was a crazy cat lady, right?
Yeah.
And then guys getting sick and they think it's witchcraft, but never did they ever think of toxoplasmosis or cat scratch fever or any of the things that would have caused this man to become dizzy and nauseous and sick and ill and die.
Right. Or heart disease.
Nobody blamed it on the cats. They all blamed it on the woman.
It can't be anything but a hex.
Witchery! That cat scratched me and now I'm sick and that woman did it.
She must die. Isn't that nuts?
I think it's crazy. I'm just automatically thinking like, okay, so these cats are infected and they're eating nasty mice. And they're killing everybody off.
Right. Damn cats.
Oh my God, that was so funny. I'm sitting over here and it's just brewing like, seriously, the cat did
it. Knowledge is power, baby.
Oh my God. Okay, go ahead.
Okay. All right, so they put the cover back on the cistern, then returned inside and finished dinner while Pearl sort of cleaned up. Eugene tore some blood-stained wallpaper off the wall and burned the blood-stained clothes they wore in the parlor stove. Pearl then went next door to fetch Eugenie home. Sincerely believing that they had done a good thing, Pearl told the neighbor, Mrs. Ring, how they killed Etta and put her in the cistern. She detailed to her that Etta had been, quote, killing over 100 people a year, 4 years now, and had cast a hex on her family. She stated that they had broken the hex and were now safe from her witchcraft. Knowing Etta and having never heard that Etta was a witch before, Mrs. Ring was taken aback at the confession and accusations, as she should have been. She was also asked for her assistance in removing the body. Now, of course, Mrs. Ring declined, and I imagine her nodding her head slowly as she backed away and closed the door in Pearl's face. I mean, holy shit.
She was like, you're a witch.
Yeah, you're the one. You're the one we must be careful of. Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Totally bonkers.
What happens with ignorance?
I know.
I'm just saying. Okay.
All right. Rightfully concerned, she phoned the prosecuting attorney, Paul Tedrow, the second Pearl left. Well, good on her. Mr. Tedrow notified Sheriff Jerome Borden and Police Commissioner Rock Fleming. Well, that's a cool name, Rock. Hell yeah. Everyone, of course, doubtful of the story, thinking it was some weird hoax. But a visit to the home where Etta lived, well, confirmed she had gone to visit the Burgess family and had not yet returned. At 10:30 that night, police paid a visit to the Burgess family. There was blood on the walls and scattered throughout the house. Eugene took the police to the cistern and removed the cover. Yup, Etta's body was there, under 15 feet of water. Just like the neighbor had told them it would be. The hammer and lead pipe were with the body. Eugene and Pearl, still believing they had saved their family and the entire town from a curse and, of course, certain death, freely admitted to the police what they had done as they showed them through the house. All 4 Burgess family members were arrested. Eugenie, very confused, asked why she was being held. The 17-year-old had been gone all day, and when she returned home late that evening, had gone straight to bed without noticing anything amiss. Upon hearing the news of the murder, she fainted. After days of questioning, it was determined she knew nothing of what had happened that night, and she was finally released on a Saturday. She would never be charged. Burnett freely admitted to helping to dispose of the body and knowing the murder would take place, but both he and his parents insisted that he had nothing to do with anything but disposing of the body. He was also released later on a $1,000 bond with an agreement to not prosecute if he served as a witness against his parents. Holy shit. Eugene and Pearl both confessed to being the one that murdered Etta. Neither had any remorse. Eugene told the officers that Etta, quote, cast a spell on his daughter and 2 years prior had killed his mother. He also blamed her for killing her husband in 1904, quote, through mental processes. Both Eugene and Pearl stated Etta had, quote, cast an evil mental influence over the family and could kill people through her mental processes, even accusing her of killing Mrs. Loveland a few years prior. Eugene stated, quote, it was either her or my family. They claimed Etta had given them a list of over 100 people she had killed annually for the last 25 years using her mental powers, evil eye, and curses. Eugene freely admitted that they renewed their friendship with Etta in order to kill her. He said he had been planning her murder since they had their disagreement over 12 freaking years ago. Quote,
"We thought first of taking her out on one of the roads leading from town to make it look like an automobile accident, but the plan looked too hard."
Eugene's brother Albert would tell the papers that, quote,
"I don't see how Jane could have done it. He was the gentlest man in the world. I've seen him refuse to kill a chicken."
He stated he believed Eugene was covering for Pearl, as Pearl had forced the family to move 12 years earlier to get away from the witch woman, while Eugene had no issues with her. Pearl recanted her confession, but stood behind her belief that the murder was justified in order to save the lives of hundreds of residents, men, women, and children that Etta was planning to murder with her mind in the coming years. Okay, quote,
"The woman is dead, and I am glad of it. We are safe from her,"
she said as she was taken to her jail cell. She later told officers, quote,
"I do not want to say anything. I would rather make my statements before a jury. I want a jury trial. They will know the kind of woman Mrs. Fairchild was and exonerate me."
As soon as the word of the arrest hit the papers, hundreds drove to the site of the murder to gawk, stare, and take souvenirs. Headlines 2 inches tall screamed,
"The Hex Killer Murder,"
in the newspapers across the state. The streets were cordoned off as so many people came to gawk that police had to provide officers for traffic control. There were guards placed in doorways to prevent entrance into the home. Wow, these people are like dead serious about getting in there. The story was big news here in Michigan. Rumors of a ghost walking the property grounds and clanking on the cistern cover only intensified the crowd. Police denied witnessing any of this. At the same time, Mrs. Etta Fairchild was laid to rest at the cemetery. The couple was arraigned. Bound over for trial, they underwent mental examinations, and their demeanor confused the experts. Many people, when charged with murder, have emotional outbursts, but both Eugene and Pearl were strangely calm, expecting accolades for saving the community, and were perplexed that nobody else could see the evil in Etta. Quote,
"You would know we did the right thing if you understood as we do. The occult power of the mind when held by a dangerous woman like Mrs. Fairchild's. You just don't seem to understand,"
Pearl told the courts. Now, these two sound like they're in a freaking cult, if you ask me.
Yeah. And you know what I'm being struck with as you're telling the story and laying it out there? This was society's form of entertainment. They treated crimes and court cases like today's people, or let's say in the 1950s when a movie would come out, a talking picture or whatever. Like everybody would like flip their shit and run to the theater because they had to witness the spectacle. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that's how they were treating this. Or at least that's the mental picture I'm conjuring as you're talking about how they're clamoring to get in, to get snippets of cloth and hair and banging on a cistern and making ghost stories while they're persecuting the phenomenal or witchery. They're still talking about magical phenomenal stuff. Like, so it's kind of insanely, I don't know. I don't even know what the word is I'm searching for the duplicitousness of it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like it's so double-sided. It's crazy.
Yeah, it was like piranhas in a feeding frenzy.
Yeah, their form of entertainment.
Yeah.
This is entertainment. Meanwhile, they're lambasting an innocent woman, probably.
I know, an elderly cat lady who did nothing wrong.
Yeah, well, she hacks the people that came to her house with her 7 diseased cats, probably.
Right. Oh, God. Okay. 2 weeks before the trial was to begin, Eugene hung himself from a shower in the prison bathroom. His body was found by another prisoner at 4:30 in the morning on September 24th, 1929. He was 54 years old. Pearl became hysterical upon hearing the news of her husband's death. Later, accompanied by officers, she was taken to the funeral home to view his body. She said she believed, quote,
Worry over the trial drove him to do it.
her trial would start on October 16th. Expert witness Dr. Mortar from the Kalamazoo Hospital for the Insane, who had examined her upon her arrest, deemed her, quote,
Abnormal, but sane.
she's abnormal.
Okay, so this guy kills himself. So these two that are actually in the cult and probably doing crazy things like what they used to accuse witches of doing.
Mm-hmm.
He kills himself, and she's still like, I was righteous in murdering the witch.
Yeah. What's wrong with that?
He was, I don't know what she's thinking he was. Like, he was weakened by her witchery because we killed her. Is that what's happening?
That's what I'm thinking. She's like, it's all her fault. Yeah.
Yeah.
How about the fact that he helped you murder this poor old woman?
Yeah, maybe he was feeling a little bit bad and realizing maybe this crazy woman talked me into this.
My wife is the one. My wife is crazy.
Poor fella. All right, so I'm sorry. I just can't get past all of this. This is just crazy to me.
I know. Isn't this crazy?
Yeah.
Unreal. Okay. Charged with the first-degree murder, Pearl's defense tried an innocent plea and an insanity plea, with her doctor providing testimony that the prior spring she had told him, quote,
Evil is going on in the world. Evil influences are everywhere about me.
After hearing all testimony, the jury of 10 men and 2 women were given 3 options. 1, guilty as charged. 2, not guilty. And 3, not guilty by reason of insanity. The jury deliberated for 13 hours and, fearing what may happen if they found her insane, found her guilty as charged. Oh, good. Because of the degree of murder, first or second degree was not a part of the instructions and did not include second degree as an option, her attorney appealed the decision, stating the jury had no business wondering what would happen after the verdict. The judge upheld the sentence and postponed sentencing for 80 days. She faced up to a life sentence. On December 31st, 1929, Pearl was granted a new freaking trial, pending a competency hearing. In February of 1930, her sanity would become the focal issue, with doctors at the Kalamazoo Hospital, where she had been examined, stating she was insane and had been for a number of years prior to the murder. In April, she was found to be criminally insane and sentenced to serve her time at the Ionia Hospital for the criminally insane. She shows on the 1940 census as inmate number 2315, then disappears from all further records. Burnett, her son, died in 1982, and her daughter Eugenie in 1996. So, the killing of Etta Fairchild was the first killing of a witch in Michigan's history. Again, this story is absolutely bonkers. Just like we just said, she was the crazy one.
Well, the thing is this story is a little bewitching because it's the first trial of a witch murder in Michigan. However, I myself am finding it highly sus that this isn't where some of the cat stuff comes from with witches as well. Because somewhere along the line, somebody probably figured out that maybe these cats were causing toxoplasmosis or the plague or, any kind of fungal infection. And that was the tie to some of these spellbound witches that had cats.
Yeah. Only a witch would have that many cats. Don't you know?
Yeah, I think it's funny.
Yeah.
It's ironic. And I don't know, how do we know all these years later, the detail about the fact that she had 6 cats? I just can't get over it.
I know.
That's the tie to the witchcraft.
Right.
And it's always got to be some hyper religious person that throws the first stone, so to speak.
Yeah, and I'm thinking old Miss Pearl. I think she had a little schizophrenia going on.
Yeah, definitely.
Woo, get some meds, woman, get some meds.
Oh my God.
I know, and in my mind, I keep seeing the whole scene. We're going to invite her to dinner. We're going to kill her at the dinner table. You followed through, you made the plan, you did it, you threw that chick in the cistern, and you bragged about it. What?
Yeah, crazy.
Totally.
Because they felt justified in their persecution of someone of their choice.
Yeah. Unreal.
Gross.
Yeah. Now, if any of you found this episode bewitching, please help us cast our spell on others by hitting that like and share button. And don't forget to subscribe. We appreciate you spending time with us. As always, thank you so much. So thank you, everyone. And we will see you all back on Wednesday for Round Robin. Have a great week, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.